is this how I want to live my life? Am I living in accord with my values, with my why, what's important to me? Am I living really the life that I was destined to live, my best life? So if I'm a free agent, why am I not a free agent for myself?
Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Hi, welcome back to another episode of the TPF podcast. Today, Andrea and I are very graced and honored to have our fearless leader and founder, Mark Schnurman of the Perfect Franchise here to join us. Mark, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Kris. Yeah, just for all of the listeners and viewers out there, I'll let you know I've been trying to get back on this for months. And Kris keeps saying, yeah, we'll bring you on. And then when I get on today, they say, hey, we're going to do a really short one. So if we cut you off really early, that's why. So I don't know what they're afraid I'm going to say, but we'll find out. But it's great to be here with you guys. You guys do an amazing job.
Thanks, Mark. We're excited. No, we have you on quite a bit. It has been a while, though, so we're glad to have you on. I think today, so Mark, the plan is sort of to do something a little bit different, right? And talk a little bit about, life and how that mixes with business ownership and talk about this a little bit more higher level for our clients. And so let's start out a little bit. So we know as we go through stages of life, there's sort of this arc of life. You go through different stages within your life. You do the same in your career. Let's talk a little bit about how that overlaps.
Yeah, so I think they should be parallel, right? Because the different stages you go through in your life and the different stages you go through in your career, they're kind of associated, right? If you're doing things right. So I have this on today, and it's Hebrew, it's Ha'eshali, and it's my fire. And and I think about that a lot, right? And today I will say my fire burns to change the world. Right? That's the stage of life I'm at. I want to change people's lives. I want to change the world. But I wasn't always like that. Right? So when I got out of college in my 20s, all I wanted to do was learn, to grow, to advance, to get Andrea to open her eyes. Thank you, Andrea. It appears you froze for a moment. But right, so I wanted to grow, learn. I read more books on business in the 10 or so years from when I entered the workforce to on. So my mid 20s to, let's say, my mid 30s. I probably read 75 to 100 business books a year. And I know that sounds like an absurd number, but if you've met me, you would know it's not an absurd number. And I wanted to grow, I wanted to learn, and I wanted to make a little bit of money, right? And then all of a sudden, somewhere overlapping with that is you get married and you have children. And, so it goes from my fire is burning to grow and to learn and to advance to my fire is burning to still do that. But now there's a little bit more of, I want to, be the best husband, the best father. I want to build my family. I want to give them opportunities. So I have to make money, but I want to spend time with them and I want to help them grow. And then, you slowly get to a point where they don't need you as much. They're in their late teens, maybe they're late high school, starting college. You're not quite empty nesters yet, but you got a lot of time on your hands that you didn't have. And maybe a little bit more money in your bank account, maybe a little bit more skilled, and probably a little bit more vision on what you want to do. And then you transition. And I know for me, that was when I turned around 50. And for me, 50 was a transition because I literally just walked away from a career that nobody else would have walked away from, and people thought I was crazy, but it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. And I knew that, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then a few more years, we're empty nesters now. The kids are doing great in spite of all my efforts to screw them up. They have succeeded. And so that's wonderful. but what do I want to do for the rest of my life? What do I want my legacy to be? Right. And it's changing the world. I want autonomy. I want freedom. I want the opportunity to create something that helps others. And it's usually at that stage, right, where your career is just very different at that point, and what's important is very different. And so the arc that we get on, and the path that we get on, and the ladder that we get on when we're in our 20s is probably not going to be the same one when we hit our mid 40s, 50, 55. And just like I'm outside now, and I'm not the guy who does this, but I have people go on my roof occasionally to do stuff. And like, is the ladder at the right spot? Because you can climb it, but if you get to the top and it's not where you want it to be, it's a problem. So it's something I think about a lot. And
Yeah.
for our clients, it's, does franchising make your life better? And when I was 27 years old, it wasn't going to. But now,
All right, Mark, talk to us about what you're terming the great reassessment. I think it's a fascinating idea, and explain it to us.
yeah, thanks, Kris. Well, during COVID, we had what we called the great resignation. And that was a lot of people just turning in their resignation letters and leaving their jobs without a business, without a next job, without a next career move because they were unhappy. And I think that sort of woke a lot of people up. And, that great resignation's been over for a while. But to me, it's really a great reassessment. I think because of technology, we can work from home. Because of COVID, what did COVID teach us? COVID taught us that anything in life can end in a moment, and that the world can turn upside down. And when you start to think that way, you say to yourself, well, is this how I want to live my life? Am I living in accord with my values, with my why, what's important to me? Am I living really the life that I was destined to live, my best life? And I think a lot of people are realizing they're not. And we've done a little bit of research at the Perfect Franchise, and what we're seeing is more and more people at a younger age are exploring and indeed entering business ownership, and certainly at older ages too, as more traditional ages like mid to late 40s into the 50s. We're seeing it broaden out because people just want more out of life. And like I said, technology is enabling us to build really good businesses from home. The franchise model is a lot more accessible now than it was in the past. So as we're reassessing what's important to ourselves, we're seeing these opportunities that we never saw before. And I think it's wonderful because we should all live the lives as soon as we're able to that we want to live. And I look back on my life, and I got into business ownership, real business ownership. I had a couple side businesses, but real business ownership at 50. And, if I had to do it all over again, probably would have been better off if I did it at 30. But I came from the generation whose parents worked at the same place forever, and we never thought about reassessing. My generation, we would switch jobs a little bit more frequently. And now with this great reassessment, as the Perfect Franchise has termed it, I think people are really reassessing everything and putting business ownership and franchising in the mix in a way they never did before, because that lifetime contract that our parents had with their employers doesn't exist anymore. So if I'm a free agent, why am I not a free agent for myself? And so people are saying, I can build something for other people. I have the skills that transfer into me being my own boss. And so I think that's really what's going on. And as people are reassessing, and they're working with incredible people like you to explore franchising and business ownership, I think they're saying, wow, I can do this. I can do this at a really high level, and it makes my life better.
Well
That's
said.
great.
Mark, let me ask you this though. If you talk to most people, just random people on the street, hey, would you like to own your own business? I don't know. 90% of them, 95% was yes, love to do that. Very few of them actually do it. Very few of them even take any action to explore it. So, what you're laying out right now makes total sense, I think. So, why do you think when they get to that 50 years old or whatever it is, empty nesters, you find you have so much more time, it all makes so much sense to us three, I'm sure. but yet so few people actually do it. Why do you think that is?
I think there are a few things. First, it's inertia, right? Objects in motion stay in motion. You've been on a career path, you're going to stay on that path. It's hard to break Newtonian physics, right? It's hard to break that path. That's the first thing. Think the second thing is it's our self definition, right? I was the chief operating officer for a decent sized commercial real estate company. Didn't really matter to me, but people are like, how can you leave that? You're making a lot of money, you're successful, you're this and the other thing. So you get the trappings and you get the acclaim. And that's kind of where you're supposed to be in life. And you see all your peers are kind of at the same place. And so it's hard to make that. And then the other thing is we're afraid. I've never done it before. I can fail. And that's the one that's silliest because you've done so much in your life before. All it is taking those same transferable skills and putting them to work for you. And if you have the right transferable skills for that franchise, you will succeed at a high level. If you don't, you won't. And that's kind of where you guys come in and help people. But it's the belief that you can do something different that's at the core of it, and a belief that your life can be better, and the belief that you want your life to be better. And I'm saying life, I'm not saying career intentionally, because what we do for a living is we don't help people find a franchise or find a business. We help people make their lives better. And if you do it right, franchising is a powerful tool for that, or it's not right for you. And that's okay. But I think the exploration and starting with the exploration and learning with an open mind, I think would get people there. But we're creatures of habit, and it's hard to break that, gravitational and inertial pull.
Yeah. So, Mark, I mean, we talk to people all the time, and I got to that point in my career where I was sick of ladder climbing. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I did it. I got to that point. I'm leading a big team. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. What can I do instead? And so we have people that get to that phase, but then we have people like Kris just mentioned. You to go up to anyone on the street. I want to own a business. And so there's sort of this desire there, right? So people have sort of these more surface emotions where I want to make more money, I want more flexibility, but then there's deeper drive to it. Like, I want to build a legacy for my kids. I want to control my own schedule. Like, I'm sick of working 60, hours a week. I want to fulfill something, this desire to do something that's for me, something that I like. Talk a little bit about that, distinguishing those two.
Yeah, what I would say is the price of anything is the amount of your life you're willing to give up for that. And in a lot of cases, two things. So if my life is okay, why do I want to rock it? If I have a good enough job, I may not love it. I may not love my boss. I might not like the company. I certainly don't like the commute, but I'm doing well enough. Why would I? And it was Collins, I think, who wrote, good is the enemy of great. And it's true. Like we get stuck where we're at. And, Montaigne said, lift your eyes to the luminous spaces of the sky. No man today deigns to lift his eyes to the luminous spaces of the sky. We don't look oftentimes beyond what's right in front of us. So this is what we're seeing. We're not seeing what can be. And so it's easy to say, yeah, I'd like to be my own boss. And you know what? For a lot of those people, they shouldn't be their own bosses, but a lot should. But you have to be able to look beyond where you are, the forest for the trees kind of thing. Like you have to be able to see it. And most people, when they speak to us or when they enter our process, or those people who, by the way, we should just clarify, Kris is giving a complete hypothetical. I don't actually walk up to people on the street and ask them this question. There may be a rumor out there, but it's not true. But they don't know anything about it. And so, yeah, yeah, I own a business. Would you like to be this? Yeah, I'd like to be this. They don't know. So it's really the exploration, the gaining of knowledge, gaining of understanding, and knowing what it looks like that I think is critical to people. And I'm a firm believer, and I wasn't always this way, but I've learned from not being this way, is that you should explore everything. not do everything, but explore everything, get the facts. And you may say, wow, business ownership is going to be the greatest thing for me. It's going to be life changing, legacy building, wealth creating. Or you might just say, hey, you know what? The job that I thought was okay, relative to being a business owner, is the greatest thing in the world. I am so lucky I'm in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah. You're kind of touching on where I wanted to go with this, because this idea of not looking to the luminous sky, um, I think a lot of people, they have this feeling when they're at the right stage of their career in life, they have this feeling that they're unsatisfied, they're dissatisfied, they're empty. But if we were to ask them, okay, what is your fire, right? Like Mark's my fire. What is your fire? What are your priorities? What do you want to do? I think they'd have a very hard time articulating it. I don't think they even know it. And I don't think they know where to start, like to figure that out. So, any advice for those folks that go, I know the negative side, I know what I don't want, I know I'm not happy, I know I want something more, but beyond that, I'm in the dark.
Yeah, I think you have to explore, but it starts with the why. And it starts with understanding what's really important to you, because we often talk about alignment, right? And I intimated that at the beginning, right? Like the arc of your life and the arc of your career should be the same. Basically, I mean, they may overlap a little bit because your life changes a little bit before maybe your career would, but you have to understand what's important. Otherwise, you can't get alignment. So, how do you get it? You ask yourself a lot of questions. What do you like? What's important to me? Like, what do I want my legacy to be? So, there's a story. Alfred Nobel was the inventor of dynamite. But we know him for the Nobel Prizes, because what happened is his brother passed away, but the biggest newspaper in Paris erroneously put his obituary, Alfred Nobel's obituary, in and called him the Doctor of Death, inventor of dynamite. He didn't like his eulogy, so he rewrote it. How did he rewrite it? He created the Nobel Prizes. And so just an amazing thought, but like that's what we should do. Like, what do you want your legacy to read? What do you want your eulogy to read? Write your eulogy and then say, okay, this is what's important to me. This is what I want. Am I behaving in accord with that? Changing the world. Like, that's what I want to do. I can't do it working for somebody else in a desk job. Right? So understand what's important. And I would tell you, Kris, and I'm not here to plug you guys, but working with one of the TPF consultants, like that's one of the things that's at the core of what we do. Right? If you're working with somebody, you could be a career coach, whatever it is, you need somebody who can really help you understand at the core what's important to you, and that can help get you alignment with that, because a lot of times we can't do things ourselves. Like, I don't know the right questions to ask to do certain things. So I ask people for help, and that's kind of where our consultants come in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Agreed.
So, Mark, you sort of hit on this, and you talked about that ladder up to your roof. And so, we have a lot of clients that can, ask themselves, "Am I sort of on that right ladder? Like, I've spent all this time building this career, and now I'm going to just switch and go into franchising." And so, talk a little bit about that. Is it sort of like you're giving up everything you learn and you're switching, you're just going a completely different direction? I think that's what people think.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. First, I would encourage somebody who has a job but wants to do something, see if you could build it on the side. Okay, so you keep your day job and you build a franchise business on the side, and there are definitely a lot of options in that. It's a little bit more limiting than if you're going to go in on a full time basis, but there are options like that, and you're not giving up. If you look at it as giving up, then it's not right for you. You need to look at it as accretive, right? So, whoever you are out there, if you're thinking about this, you have to say, wow, this is going to make my life better. More freedom, like I mentioned, autonomy, a greater sense of community, greater sense of impact, a sense of belonging, a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose. If you look at it that way, and it comes down to, is the world abundant or not? If you look at the world as a place of abundance, you will see all of the positive ways this can do it. And so that's a little bit more philosophical, but also on the sort of where the rubber hits the road. What am I doing on a day-to-day basis? How much time am I spending doing that? Am I good at it? Do I like the brand? Do I like how they're going to support me? And I think, so it's where do you want to go? And then once you know where you want to go, it's getting alignment with that individual brand. And ultimately there's a leap of faith, because you don't 100% know what's going to happen when you join a franchise. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen in an hour. And so what you do is you get the best alignment you can, and then you move forward. I will tell you, I get a lot of calls even today, and I haven't been consulting for over a year, from people who say, "Hey, I want to re-engage in the process. I thought the job would
Beautiful.
work out, the career would work out. It didn't." And so, in my experience, people have a lot more regrets for not finding the courage, not finding the motivation, the drive to move forward, than they do for moving forward and it not working out. By the way, things don't always work out exactly how we want them to. But if somebody executes in a franchise and it's a good franchise system and it's a good match, you may struggle a little bit, but you'll get to the other side, right?
Yeah.
And struggle is what we do every day. So you just need to know that it's part of being a business owner, part of being an employee, part of living, and just got to embrace it.
Well, and I'd say one of the things I always say to people is you're not giving up this path. And you talked a lot about that arc of the life in your career. And you get to a point in your career where you have all these skills. You're not going to just throw those away and start a franchise. You're going to actually transfer those into the franchise, right? So you've built this up. Maybe the what you're doing is different, but the how you approach it, everything you've learned, that's what's going to make you a good business owner, is having those transferable skill sets. So it's not like you've wasted a career and done something completely different. You're now just going to use it a little bit differently.
Right. And if you take those transferable skills and you make your life better, what are we talking about here? That's all it
Yeah.
is. Like, and
Yeah.
you guys are young. I'm an old guy. I'm going to be 58 this year. I'm old. But the reality is, like, you get to a certain point and like you want other things in life. Like, money's a great thing and we all want it, but you know what? How much is money worth for my time? Because I go back to the cost of anything is how much of your life you're willing to give up for it. And so when is enough for people? And by the way, you can do really well financially in franchising as well. So you can equal or exceed what you're making at your job, and you could do it with more flexibility and more freedom, certainly over time. Maybe not day one, but certainly over time.
Yeah. Well, Mark, as you told the audience at the beginning of this, we only let you on if you promise to be short. So we're going to wrap up, but I think this is a really important uh, idea, that your life arc should parallel your career arc. I don't think many people think about it. I didn't really until you started talking about it. So before we call it a day, any ending comments, any ideas that you want to share about this idea um, before we sign off?
Yeah, well, I just think it's cruel that the guy who's 6'4" calls the guy who's 5'9" short. Like, dude, I know. Like, did you have to put it out there for everybody? Uh, no, I mean, listen, I think whoever you are, wherever you are, you just have to live your best life. We're not around forever. We're not healthy forever. We don't have energy forever. And so just do what, you know, helps you get to where you want to get to, right? And like I said at the beginning of my career, I worked crazy hours. I would come home at night and I would do all this stuff. I'd read a ton because I wanted to learn, and I still read a lot, but it's different stuff now, right? And you get to a point, an inflection point, where things are more important. And it's just understanding that. And it's a strange place for us because you've been on this path and all of a sudden you're questioning, like, is it really the right path? But if you start questioning it, dig into those questions, figure it out, find out if there are alternatives for you. Franchising might be one of them. It absolutely may not be one of them. but explore the options because pretty soon you're not going to have options, right? Pretty soon you're going to be 70 years old. That's right around the corner for me. And you're not going to be thinking about these things, but you're going to look back and you say, I wish I did. And that's, I don't think, a great place for anybody to be.
Yep.
No, I think that's great. Thanks, Mark. We really appreciate having you on. I think there's a lot of insight here for people. It's not for everybody, but explore it and see if it is. See if it's going to make your life better. I think that's the biggest message we always tell clients. So thanks so much for coming on and talking
It's
through
great
that
being
with
here.
us.
And by the way, I think it's by accident. There's an internal dialogue texting back and forth between Andrea and Kris. And Andrea said, Kris, you're right. We shouldn't have brought him back. And
That's right.
and Andrea's like, and Kris
No.
replies to Andrea, 3 years, nothing shorter than 3 years. So I'm in agreement with you guys.
No, in all fairness, we love having you on, but thank you, Mark. So if you're thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one size fits all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com and click on Let's Talk to schedule a call with a consultant on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you again on our next episode.